Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith. This is the IMDb studio at Acura Festival Village. And look, it's the cast and crew of Siempre. Luis, give it up for him, ladies and gentlemen. All right, when I read this description, I sit around and interview people for 4 days while I'm up here at Sundance. This one instantly made me well up. The idea of making a documentary with your dad about your dad is a beautiful thing. How do you get involved?
I met Luis Miranda in 2008. I was working for a political consulting firm. I was doing a stint in politics. He was running his own company out of the same office, and I ended up working more for him than for the company I was hired to do work for. And that's a reflection of who he is. He's just this sort of, gravitational force, pulls people in, wonderful. He was great in giving me advice. We had this shared background. My mother's Puerto Rican, he's Puerto Rican. So that was sort of a basis of small talk and, stayed friends, stayed in touch. And over that time, I learned a little bit about his story, the amazing migrant story, leaving Puerto Rico at 18 to set off on a course for bigger and better things. He comes to New York. As you sort of hinted, he ends up working for Koch, rises within the administration, within the New York City political scene, then ends up running successful campaigns for Chuck Schumer and Hillary Clinton. And then Lin-Manuel Miranda is running around the office where we're working, and
it's a free breakfast for me.
Things are happening, and I'm making notes.
How weird to be hanging out with such an incredibly irrelevant family.
Lucky.
Yeah.
Right place, the right time.
Oh my
I asked
God.
him to. I asked to put a camera on him 3 years ago. He said yes.
And that was why. So 3 years ago, and that was before the events in the film unfold. You couldn't have known what was coming.
Had no idea. Was a little worried that people might not believe all of the balls that he's juggling.
Right.
He juggles a lot of balls. But he had a heart attack. And, we were friends. And I just felt it was the right moment to ask because things changed. His timeline for doing things accelerated. He was doing more, not less. He wasn't going to follow anyone's order, and I just thought that there was something cinematic about that.
I only follow my wife's order.
Smart
And
man.
that's true.
Yeah. Happy wife, happy life. What does it feel like when somebody says all those lionizing things about you, makes you sound like a hero?
Many times it takes me a little while to realize that they are talking about me, but it feels wonderful. It feels great that my story, which I don't believe it's sort of unique, is the story of so many migrants and immigrants who come into this country and want to do better. And sort of that's what I did. And you always hope that your kids will end up in a better place than you did. And my kids did. And proud that this country gave that opportunity to them. So it's telling the story, I hope, will inspire more people to tell simple stories like that.
Take us back to, so Koch is like late 70s, early 80s. Is that when you're active?
Actually, Koch, it's, the last term, which is the late 80s. So I'm 33 when I'm hired by the Koch administration. We have this great footage that my wife and I love. I had to make the decision as to who will introduce me at the induction. The swearing-in ceremony. And so many people wanted to do that. They want the spotlight that I said, I'm going to have Lin-Manuel and my daughter Luz introduce me. Lin-Manuel was 7. And my daughter was just a teenager. And I always remember just before he was to start talking, I went over to make sure he was fine. And he looked at me and said, I'm hyperventilating. He always had big words.
Yeah, he took them into adulthood as well.
Yes, I did. He did. Ed Koch at the end said to me, you never have kids or dogs because they will always take the spotlight.
Say the least. When did you find it easy to be followed around
not
by
at all.
camera? Yeah, because that's not a natural state for most people.
It is not. It's not, my life and my job has been to elect people, to promote people, to push causes, institutions. If I get on camera, that means that my candidate is doing really bad and I have to do some explaining.
Right.
So all of a sudden, I am the center of this. So it's challenging to sort of change your psychic and your being to have a camera following you around.
And when you guys are doing this, like as we're up here at Sundance, the guy you used to work with has been on TV all week. Is that correct? Chuck Schumer? No.
He is. He's a little busy
Yeah.
these days trying to save the republic from the monster who hates it now.
Right. When you see him on TV, are you doing the job? Are you proud of him? You're like, I know, that's my guy.
I am. I always remember right after he won, we went to Puerto Rico, literally like the week before. He had not been sworn in yet. And all of the expectations he had about what he was going to do in this new role. And sort of every day, he makes me proud that I have a little bit to do with him being there.
Right on. With such a special dad who's got a movie about him, is this finally your chance to break into the entertainment industry?
I have to say, this is the most fun I've ever had on a press tour because I get to ride shotgun and basically provide color commentary on this character. And, I think there's a great tradition of documentaries where you just go, that guy's a character. We got to roll camera on that dude. And JJ had the foresight to do that during a very eventful few years in our lives. And, for me, I've always tried to explain to people, I'm like the laziest, chillest member of my family. Right. And I feel like people will watch this movie and go, oh, I understand everything now. It's a nice feeling.
You got In the Heights coming out this year, so it's a big year for you as well on that front, and it's one of the most searched for movies on IMDb.
Oh wow!
But I never got to tell you this. I went to see Hamilton, and it was just after you stepped off, and I'd heard about it, and it was the hottest ticket in the world to get. And I remember walking into the theater, going like 3 hours of rap history, man, like. Yeah. I don't know.
It's a terrible pitch.
It really was.
It's not a good elevator pitch.
Nobody says it correctly. The magic in that show, like no lie, when it was done, I would have paid instantly to go back and just watch it again.
That means the world. Thank you.
What is it like to create something that connects in such a powerful way and yet is still very contained? Like it hasn't even hit the cinematic stage.
Yeah.
Like you're touring now, right? Like some productions of it are touring. What is it like to, you can sleep now, I imagine, better for the rest of your life? You've made an impact, son.
Well, I feel like people react one of two ways. Like, for me, I'm well aware that's the first line in my obituary. Right. Like, it's handled. And you can
you're
see
talking to the clerks guy. I know what you're talking about.
I know you know, and I grew up watching your film, so I'm just pinching myself being here. But you can see that as, I've got to top that, which I know is insane because it's you can't control when your work comes into the world and where the wave is when that happens. We've all had work that comes out and it catches the wave, and we've had work that comes out and it's like, oh, hello.
Yeah. Anybody hear that?
Anybody hear that tree I made fall in the forest? And so I choose to see it as freeing and as, all right, that's handled. First line in the obit handled, and like, what other cool stuff can I make in my time?
Speaking of cool stuff, are you really involved with Little Mermaid? Live action Little Mermaid?
Yeah, bro.
And is it with?
It's with Alan Menken. So we've written some new songs for and by the way, the reason I'm sitting here is because when I was 9 years old, I went on a play date to see Little Mermaid, and it blew my brain up. It expanded my mind the way some people talk about their first LSD experience. That's what Little Mermaid was to me. Yeah. And so
How old were you?
I was 9 years old.
And were you aware of the composers? You seem like a kid that'd be like, who did this? Not like most kids see a cartoon.
And in fact, I had Alan Menken's autograph in 4th grade because his niece went to my elementary school. She was a few years older. And it's a Post-it lost to time that says, to Lynn, from Alan, P.S. stop kissing Jenny's feet. Because apparently I went and accosted her and said, please get me your uncle's autograph. Nice. And so I was the first one to be like, hey, Little Mermaid's pretty dope. I'm not going to write the song that messes up Little Mermaid. So we were really careful about sort of picking moments that we could really kind of expand on and felt like they belonged in the same movie as everything else. I'm the most allergic to gratuitously added songs. And so yeah, they're in rehearsal right now in London.
Do you, everybody, of course, Disney with Moana and with this. JJ was like, hey man, like make some music for the Star Wars movies. Like, does everyone just presume upon the friendship now where they're like, come on, man, do some music with me?
Well, the
Write some
JJ
lyrics.
thing happened. I'm sure you had a similar experience with him, which was that he came to see Hamilton on a night I wasn't in. I was actually taking notes in the audience, and I said, "Hi, I'm the composer. You know, I still have questions about Rambaldi from Alias season 4." And
Deep cuts.
deep,
That's
the
awesome.
deepest of cuts. And he said, "Oh, I love the music." And I said, "Well, if you need some Cantina music, ha ha ha." And he said, John Williams doesn't want to write our Cantina scene. Like, I do need music. And I went, oh, I was kidding, but I'll do it. So that was totally, like, that's called, like, shoot your shot when you meet your heroes.
No
That's
doubt.
the lesson there.
You and Rise as well? We get a little piece in Rise of the Skywalker?
Yes. That was, I basically said, if you have any music that John Williams doesn't want to cover, like, I'm in.
No, you're in it. Like, aren't you in Rise
Well,
of
that's
Skywalker?
what happened. I went and visited him, and I'm sure this happened to you. He said, you want to be in it? I was just going to visit, and he threw me in a costume, and I'm there in the background while Chewbacca's hugging someone. No spoilers. So yeah.
He was, I had the heart attack, and he sent me an email going, if you don't die, I'll put you in Star Wars. And I was like, that's the best reason to live.
the
Yeah.
gym.
I became vegan so I could get into Star Wars. What is it like directing with a director in the mixed?
Great question. I mean, he's easy to work with. I mean,
Right.
I think he's the greatest storyteller we have. And so when he did his sit down with us, we had 3 hours planned, and he did it in 48 minutes.
I was going to say, tough to get content out of the guy, I'd imagine. It's like pulling teeth.
And he gave us the map to the movie, because at that point, we knew where we needed to go with the story.
It's not unlike Little Mermaid, though, because I knew the character backwards and forwards that we were
Right.
discussing.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, I know what you need to lean in on here. You got to press him on this, and you got to press him on this, and, you know, his character.
How incredibly special. Like, it seems like you kept family in your life and job throughout your work and whatnot, and you guys seem very close now. It's breathing rarefied air to be able to do that with your kid at this age and whatnot.
It is, and you know, we're all here. It's just 13 of us, including my brother and my sister, who flew from
To
San
come see the
Juan
movie?
to come and see the movie today. So this morning, I woke up to 13 Puerto Ricans in a kitchen, over each other, cooking and making coffee and sort of getting ready. So it's anything that we do feels better when you share it with your family.
So damn true. All right, we're going to hit you with some fast questions. Ready? What's the last show that you binged?
Last Broadway show that I've been to?
No, last show that you binged, TV show, but I'll take Broadway show. too.
Oh, yeah. Wild Wild Country.
Wild Wild Country, did you dig it?
I dug it. I was all in on that.
All the way
A little
through.
late to the party, but it was wonderful.
You know, I was going to say you're the first one that picked that one this year, but still, it's an excellent poll.
Dickinson.
Have you dug it?
Yeah, I devoured it. It was great.
Beautiful. That's on
Schitt's Creek.
Schitt's Creek. Finally, somebody speaks up for Schitt's Creek. It's a good watch, right?
Oh
It's
my
a fun
God,
watch.
my wife had surgery. I had not heard of it. My wife had, I think, the first entire season, and we just sat and watched the entire first season, and now, week after week, we make a date on our calendar to see it together.
It's that good. Oh my God, that's really sweet. Here you go. Who should play you in a biopic?
Who should play me?
Yeah, they're gonna make a biopic. Oddly enough, years from now, they're like, the most important thing happened in art was the doc. We got to make a biopic about the guy that made the doc. Who's gonna play you?
Well, John James from Dynasty, I guess.
What a deep
Right.
cuts, Paul.
Right?
Yes. I used to watch that with my mother. Holy cow.
CGI man.
Yeah, they'd have to Irishman him back a little bit.
That'd be amazing.
What about you, Captain? Who plays you in the inevitable biopic of your life? Who plays you?
Oh, I think my mom always said Freddie Prinze Jr.
FPJ, man.
Like during those teen movies, she was like, I just think you look so much like that Freddie Prinze Jr. He's so handsome. And then Pacino for this guy are bust.
Gino.
But for me, it's easy because he has half of my genes.
No
so
doubt.
he plays me.
There you go. Perfect answer right there. How do you not see that?
I already played him in Hamilton.
Oh my God, that's true. Okay, what is the most? One of you is definitely gonna have an answer for this. What's the most uncomfortable costume you've ever worn?
You're looking at me. I'm the director.
I
You're the
know. But
storyteller.
look at me. I'm a
Man.
director and I have to wear a costume.
Most uncomfortable costume I've worn?
kiss. My wife and I always celebrated Halloween and went to parties during Halloween when we were in the village, and I dressed like one of the Kiss characters.
Characters from the band Kiss.
Yes, yes.
They are characters. And nobody knew who I was, so I had an amazing time at the party. And at the end, nobody knew who I was.
They weren't like, it's Gene Simmons. They're like, what is that?
What is that? You'd think I'd say Hamilton, but that was actually pretty stretchy fabric they had us in. I was in an episode of The Electric Company where I played a rapping hot dog, and I was in this green lycra to be CGI'd later,
Right.
and I could only move my arms in a specific direction, otherwise it wouldn't look realistic as a hot dog. That's probably the most uncomfortable.
From the Great White Way to the digital hot dog, man. That's a list of art. Give it up for the kids from Siempre, Luis, ladies and gentlemen.